What's up guys, today we're going to be going over the new exotic grenade launcher, the Parasite, better known as the worm launcher. And in this video we'll be going over how this weapon works and breaking down some DPS numbers with it and going over if it is the new king of burst DPS in Destiny 2. So a lot of stuff to go over. Right now my code error is 30% off for G Fuel. Today I'm drinking my all-time favorite flavor, Cyber Punch, which is the old fruit punch. You can check out their store by clicking the link in the comments description. Find something that sounds good to you and try it out. That is the best way to support me besides watching today's video. Since this is my first damage testing video of this DLC, just like previous DLCs, the base level of the game got raised to now 1350, which means the numbers will be higher. But once we do a few DPS testings, we'll get used to the new higher numbers. A few people suggested using the new area in the Enclave with the crafter, where you can shoot those little discs in the sky. But I tested already that they scale to your light level of your weapon, which means unless you're testing two weapons of the exact same light level, the comparisons will not be accurate, which is why I test in an old area of the game, for example Carl, because it'll still be 1350 until next DLC, which means once we're above the power delta scaling of the area, which we already are, the numbers will no longer go up and the comparisons will be accurate for the entire year. And I see questions about why I still test on Carl all the time, and that is why, if you're testing in newer areas, the numbers will constantly change depending on the light level of your weapon. Kind of defeats the purpose of testing and comparing different weapons. So moving on to the Parasite, looking at its perks, first with the exotic one. This weapon fires hive worms which explode on impact. The size and damage of explosion goes with the number of enemies you defeated just before firing this weapon. And its secondary perk, Worm Byproduct, taking damage from your own worm projectile detonation empowers your weapons for a short time. So a lot of stuff to test. So looking at how this works in the game, first off, it has a 1 mag, and when you shoot it, it goes extremely slow and has a huge arc, so it'll definitely be pretty hard to hit this thing at range, and it'll definitely be a learning curve of how to aim it to make sure you get direct impacts. And the whole way the exotic perk works is as you get kills with any weapon, any ability, anything at all, doesn't matter what it is, you'll get Worm's Hunger, and for every red bar you'll get 1 stack, and the cap, as you'll see later on, will be times 20. And one thing I found is if you're killing any yellow bars, so major, ultra, anything like that, you'll actually get 4 stacks per kill, which makes it so getting to that times 20 is pretty fast depending on what you're doing. So 20 red bars or 5 majors. So that's not too bad at all, and pretty realistic to do going up to a boss fight, or whenever you get up to a higher health target, you should have that times 20 ready to go. Now we look at damage on Carl first without any stacks at all. It's done for these two numbers right here, which is a little bit over 100,000. Then with times 5, it's gonna go up quite a bit to these numbers right here, taking Carl to almost half HP left. Then moving on to times 10, do a lot of damage, over 66% of Carl's health. With times 15, it almost kills him at over 250,000 damage. And finally with times 20, he's just dead, just simply dead. So if we look at the total damage of all the different stacks, with times 20, it's gonna be 306,000, which is 190% more damage than the base damage, so almost 3 times the damage. And obviously these numbers are higher than previous numbers, so we just throw in a few comparisons to see where that is. First with Izanagi's Burden with Hone Edge times 4 shots. Looking at damage on Carl, 1 Hone Edge times 4 hits for 121,000, which is obviously quite a bit less than the Parasite. Then we also compare it to the G Horn. For this comparison, we're going to head over to the EDZ boss because it does less damage to bosses than majors. And look at damage on that, it's going to hit for roughly on all 93,000. So the Parasite with a times 20 shot is doing roughly 2.5 times the damage of an Izanagi shot and over 3 G Horns worth of damage. So obviously that is a lot of burst damage instantly from just a single shot. Then the secondary part of this weapon, the Worm Byproduct, whenever we damage ourselves with the worm projectile itself, it should buff our other weapons. So what you do, you just take damage from your shot, you have Worm Byproduct for 10 seconds, which will make your other weapons glow and receive a buff. So in theory, the way this works is because the worm launcher is only 1 mag, you shoot that 1 mag at a target, it probably will kill them, but if it doesn't, you finish up with your special or whatever it is for that last 10 seconds and probably finish off the kill. So looking at damage of this increase, normally we hit for this number on Carl with our hand cannon. Now we damage ourselves. For 10 seconds, we will get up to this number, which is going to be a 15% increase, which is obviously not that high, but it's definitely better than nothing. So in theory, you go up to a boss with a times 20 shot, more than likely it will kill most things in the game. And if it doesn't, you just finish off with a special weapon. This thing is definitely the king of burst DPS right now. It's doing an absolute absurd amount of damage in a single shot. But I think for extremely long boss fights, for example, raid final bosses, I still think things like G-Horn or even other rockets or things like linears will still be a better choice overall. Pretty much any fight that lasts more than 10 seconds, the worm launcher will no longer be one of the best picks. Another thing about this worm launcher is that it's extremely good for group actor with higher health targets. Any majors, ultras, mini bosses within the range of this thing with a ×20 shot, they're just dead. I mean, the range of explosion is so high and you're doing so much damage that it will just kill everything. So as we figured out so far, it's definitely the king of burst DPS, but what does that actually mean in the game? Where will this thing be useful? Well, like I started to mention, outside of really long boss fights, I think it's a solid pick for pretty much everything. But where I think it'll really shine is activities with champions, for example, Master and Grandmaster Nightfalls later on in the season, for two reasons. One, the boss fight. Most boss fights and strikes are now health gated. And with a single shot from 3 players with this thing, or even just like 2 or 1 player, you're going to be pushing the boss to the next immune phase pretty much in just a single shot. Then when it comes to the champions, this clip right here is on light. It's 1550 and I am 5050 myself. And with no debuff, anything like that, with a ×18 shot, not even ×20, the champion is just dead. He doesn't even stand a chance. So when it comes to having multiple players using this thing, I mean, throughout a GM or Master Nightfall, you're going to be one-hitting all the champions. You can probably say, oh, I got this one, you got the next one, so on and so on. That way you all have ×20 for the champions. Then when you get to the boss fight, you just simply push the boss to the immune phase instantly, clear all the ads, get ×20 again for the next phase, so on and so on. This weapon also holds 7 base reserves with double reserve perks. It goes up to 11, which is quite a lot of ammo with this weapon. If you use ×20 shots for all 11 or all 7, you're going to be doing over 2 million and over 3.3 million damage with this weapon, which the numbers did go higher, but I can tell you right now, those are very high. So overall, the Parasite is an S+ weapon. Honestly, like, I think this will be one of the best picks in the game for almost any activity. The only time you really want to be changing off this is for very long boss fights, for example, Atheon or potentially some of the new raid boss fights. But for most activities in the game, most bosses are going to die from, you know, one shot of this each from your entire fire team. Many bosses along the way, champions, whatever's in your way, are also going to be one hit by this thing. And anything that doesn't get one hit, you have that 10-second window to do that 15% increased damage with your special weapon, a glaive, sniper, whatever it is. So overall, this thing is the real deal, and it is one of the best weapons in the entire game right now. And it's definitely the heavy I'm using in my new Warlock build, which this gameplay at the end is kind of teasing a little bit of what I'm using. I'm going to be making my video about this build tomorrow, so definitely look forward to that. And this exotic just pairs perfectly with the build, because the build focuses around, you know, just crazy ad clear with your grenades and things like that. And while you're doing that, you're gonna be getting ×20 worm shots and just be ready to go whenever there's a huge group of ads, mini boss, major, ultra, champion, or even the final boss. So yeah, Bungie definitely knocked it out of the park with the Parasite. So far, it's definitely my favorite exotic of the Witch Queen DLC. Definitely let me know what you think about it down below. Once again, my code AIR is 30% off for G4 right now. Like usual, thanks for watching. Catch you guys next time.
Life signatures in a facility up ahead.